So as Anas sir has that day given the description about the Victorian era and Robert Browning. So I will quickly brief through it so that we can recollect it. So Robert Browning was born on 7 May 1812. He was a devout Christian. He was educated at home. He learned four languages by the age of 14, the Latin, Greek, French, and Italian. He was mainly influenced by Shelley, the Romantic poet, and his favorite poet was Byron. He was married to Elizabeth Barrett, and he had a son, Robert Wideman Barrett. He died on 12 December 1889. Now, features of his poetry. Coming to features of his poetry, at the age of 6, he composed his first poem. He was mainly known for his dramatic monologues, which are partly lyrical and partly dramatic. Through his writings, he made contribution to Victorian social and political discourse. He had a mastery in using dramatic irony. In the age of pessimism, he was full of optimism. That means during the Victorian age, there were many developments, but at the same time, the social life was miserable. But from his writings, he created a hope. He created some optimistic view in the life of people. Now, dramatic monologue, as that way, Sir has explained beautifully that it's something that where a character speaks to himself, though it is the wordings of the poet, but the poet is not expressing himself, he is expressing to the character. And moreover, there is no other listener. We can analyze the presence of listener through the clues and through the our interpretations from the dialogues of the speaker. And dramatic monologue is a single speaker, and it is dramatic in the sense because it was basically meant for the theatrical quality. It was to be staged on the theater platform during the Victorian age. The career began with the publication of Pauline, a fragment of a confession in 1883, then followed by Passerless in 1835 and Sordello in 1840. But unfortunately, Passerless and Sordello, they met negative criticism because of its unobscure content. It was highly criticized. But in the coming years, in 1868 and 69, when he wrote The Ring and the Book, a story of a Roman murder trial, it gave him much applause and made him a leading British poet. The Pied Piper of Hamelin, as all of us have read in our school days, and till date we are reading it, our children are reading it, and we enjoy reading it. So it has gained popularity through all the decades. Now, these are some of the famous works of Robert Browning. Now, coming on to Sordello. Sordello is a poem which was actually, he got inspired from the work of Dante. The Dante has written the Divine Comedy, and as he was educated, Robert Browning was educated at home. He could not attend the regular schooling. And what happened that his father, he had a huge library, and it consisted of 6,000 or more books. And so he was well versed in reading, as we know that he had known he was a master of four languages, and Sordello was an inspiration from Dante's work. Sordello is a long narrative poem of 5,982, and it is composed in 6 books. So it's a very long poem, and in each book there are numerous lines. Robert Browning worked on Sordello for 7 years, and it was largely between 1836 to 1840. But it was finally published in 1840, and then it met a huge criticism. because of its obscurity, because we cannot understand the plot. It's like moving in every direction. Robert Browning is not going in one direction so that we can understand what actually is going to happen. This is a very complex poem. We can't find out what he actually wants to say. One thought is coming from there and one the other where. So it's all mixed up. So at that time when he published his book, it was highly criticized because people were not able to understand it. Even the some notable writers like Alfred Tennyson, he has also pointed out that he only understood the first and the last line, and they were both lies. It was not the truth. Basically, Sordello is an imaginary biography of this Mantuan bard. And so even Lord Alfred Tennyson, he commented that he could not understand. He could understand only the first and the last line. So it's an imaginary biography of a Mantuan bard spoken of by Dante in the Divine Comedy, set against a background of hate and conflict during Guelph and Ghibelline Wars. Actually, in Divine Comedy, what Dante has written is about a Mantuan bard, and it was during the war between the two groups, the Guelphs, who were the partisans of Pope, and the Ghibellines, who were the partisans of Holy Roman Emperor. And both these groups, they were fighting. And this Sordello, he was a Guelph. And so inspired by that Dante's work, Robert Browning gives the idea of Sordello in his own imagination. It is a study of psychology of genius and the development of soul. Here, as we progress through the poem, here the character of Sordello is defined, is polished. Basically, in the first book, till the line 400, there's no description of Sordello. In fact, it's the description of the this goiter, a place in Roman Greek where this war was being held. And after line 400, the description of Sordello, his life, his whatever he was thinking, that description continues till the end. The poem reveals about the troubles of its subject, who in turn between the practical and the sublime, between the demands of his poetic imagination and his involvement in the power and glory of politics. As is described in the poem, Sordello basically wanted to be a poet. He is always daydreaming, and he is in a this state of fantasy. He is always dreaming about in like fantasy world. But when, as we will see further, that when he comes to the Mantua, where the actual happening of his, or you can say the turning point of his life comes, there he is bewildered between two things: whether to be a poet or to be in the this ruling power. So this is what actually happens in his life. The poem was, however, championed decades later by Algernon Swinburne and Ezra Pound. So there were two poets who, in the later decade, appreciated his poem, Robert Browning's poem Sordello, and it was then considered as a work, or as a you can say the work of Robert Browning according to his ideals. Now the plot, the setting is northern Italy in 2020s, dominated by the struggle between the Guelphs, partisans of the Pope, and the Ghibellines, partisans of the Holy Roman Empire. Sordello is a Ghibelline. Sorry, I first told you he was a Guelph. Sorry, he's a Ghibelline. Like his lord, Eslin II da Romano, and the soldier, Torello. So these are the three main characters, as we can say, though there are other characters also. Palma is also there, a female character, but basically the whole story revolves around these three characters. What was the source? So, as I've already said, it was Browning's historical source was Dante's Purgatorian and the Biography Universale. That was in his father's library. From these two books, he actually got the inspiration to write Sordello. Sordello was a mountain poet and warrior of the early 13th century, and 34 of his poems are in provincial language. So, Sordello, the actual hero of Dante's work, was a warrior and a poet, and he had written 34 poems. So, this Sordello, which I am talking about, is of Dante's work, not of Browning's work. His age at the time of his death remains uncertain, but Browning chose to have his character die at the age of 30. So the actual Sordello, when he died, is not known. But in Browning's Sordello, he made him die at the age of 30. In 1838, Robert visited Italy looking for background for Sordello. So when he was writing Sordello, he actually visited Italy to find out what actually happened there, because he was writing an imaginary biography, but he wanted to have that aura, that atmosphere in his work from where the actual thing happened. Now, characters, basically there were two characters, Guelphs and the Ghibellines, the two parties. In the Guelphs we have Pope Honorius III, Count Richard of Saint Boniface, he was a prince of Verona, and Azo VII of Este. In Ghibellines we have Kaiser Friedrich II, Torella Senguerera, Eslin II Romano, Sordello, Palma, Eglamour, and Nedo. So these are the characters which are in Sordello. Now, a lineage, because it is a very typical, very lengthy poem. So when we read it, we lose that who is who. So to consider a little, to keep in mind, we can see that Torello, Selingera, and Ritrid. Torello, who was the soldier of Eslin II, and Ritrid, who was daughter of Emperor Frederick II. They both had a son, Sordello. And the second one is that Eslin II Romano, the Emperor of Torello, whom he was serving, he was a Ghibelline feudal lord. He and Azo VII of Este, the first wife of Eslin II, who was a Guelph, they had a daughter, Palma. But Eslin II Romano, he had a second wife. He married again with Adelaide, and they had two children, Eslin II and Cuniza. So I want to tell that basically Sordello was the son of Torello, but he was not knowing of his origin, because when he was young, Torello had left him, but he was not knowing that my son is alive. And Palma, who was who was the child of Esilo's first wife, was later reared by his second wife. And in the later stages, Sordello and Palma, they came together as lovers, but unfortunately, Sordello died in the end. Now, in that syllabus, we have book 2. As I've already said, that the whole Sordello poem of Robert Browning is divided into 6 books, but to be the book to be considered is book 2 in a syllabus, and it is this book 2, the content in the book 2 is also sometimes referred to as Sordello in Mantua. So here's the summary of book 2. Sordello is wandering through the wood through Mantua, daydreaming about Palma, when he comes upon a crowd gathered by the city's wall. They are listening to the aged troubadour Eglamour. Impatient with Eglamour's feeble efforts, Sordello interrupts him and continues his song so effectively that, to his own astonishment, he wins the prize, and Palma bestows upon him her scarf. Eglamour responds graciously to his defeat, but walks home alone and troubled, and dies the same night. At his funeral, Sordello praises him highly. Eglamour's jongler Nado becomes Sordello's jongler. Now, I will just give a little recap of book one. In book one, as I've said, that till line 400, nothing is telling about Sordello, only about the wars and the landscape and everything. Now, when it comes to Sordello, there the description is given that he is grown up in Goito castle, and he's daydreaming and he wants to be a poet, and to there he receives the news that Palma, the daughter of the emperor, is being married to a person, and he wants to see that occasion, and to be a witness to that occasion. He went to Montreux, and there he finds out that there's a poetry contest being held, and so he participates in that, and luckily he wins. But the other competitor, he felt little low, and with that regret in mind, he died. And this is the point where Sorgello and Palma, they meet first. They had their first meeting. Now, the person Aglamour, he was holding some position in the, you can say, the noble class, and when he died, that position was handed over to Sordello. He was given that position. As you can say, he was the minister in the court. So when he died, the position got vacant, and so Sordello was placed there, and he was made the minister. And Nado, a jongler, or you can say a PA to, as we can say, a PA to the minister, he became the PA to. Obviously, when one person is taking the charge of the other, all the junior staff, it gets automatically subordinate to that person. So same way, Nado becomes Sordello's jongler. Sordello, long reluctant to do so, finally inquires about his birth and origins. He is told that he was the son of an archer who saved the lives of Adelaide and Palma when they were nearly killed by a fire set by Asselin himself. Disappointed, Sordello then gives up a plan of becoming a man of action and devotes himself to minstrelsy, but quickly becomes bored and slapdash. He tries reinventing his language to express his visions more directly, but encounters public incomprehension and personal fatigue. Sordello is deeply divided between his conception of poet as a profession and poet as a destiny. So after winning the poetry contest, he was given the position, but now the question arises about his birth and origin. He was unaware of his birth and origin, but there he was told that he was the son of an archer who saved the life of Adelaide, Adelaide's second wife of Estlin, and Palma when they were nearly killed by a fire set by Estlin himself. So Estlin too, he himself set fire to burn his second wife and daughter, but was luckily saved by an archer, the father of Sordello. But the name is not disclosed here. The name gets disclosed in the third book of Sordello. Till here, he was not known to whom he was the son of. So when this Sordello gets disappointed, and then he first thought of becoming a minister, but then his poetic instinct make him to leave everything and be a poet. So he was here in a fix whether to be a poet or to be in profession. So he can't decide, and this was a turning point in his life. The Lady Adelaide dies suddenly. Then the news comes that Estlin too has resolved to retire to a monastery. Torello confronts his lord on horseback, but is unable to make him change his mind. Torello is thus forced to abandon his plan to join the emperor on the new crusade. He travels to Mantua, where Sordello is appointed to welcome him and with a song, but the baffled troubadour, lacking inspiration, wanders back to Goito. Now, what happens when they were set to fire? Adelaide finally dies, and then regretting his action, Estlin decided to go to monastery and lead a saint life. There, Torello, the soldier of Estlin, he comforts him, he persuades him not to go, but he could not change his mind. And finally, the emperor left. And then Torello travels to Mantua, where Sordello is appointed because Sordello has left his ministerial post and went back. He did not want to be in the ministerial post, so he was there and he was appointed to welcome with a song, but he could not sing at that time. The situation there made him not to sing. He was speechless, and then he went back to Goito, where his initial homeland was, where his childhood was spent. So he went back there. So this is the summary of book 2, and now the form. The version of Sordello most often referred today is of a poem of 5,982 lines. So it was basically 5,000 lines, but when it was published, then Browning added few more lines, and then the final version came of 5,982 lines. It is in iambic pentameter, that is, it has meter of 5 feet. And it is rhyming in couplet. It and includes running lines that summarize the action. Whether in the form of dramatic monologue, lyric, or drama, Browning is always speaking in through his character. So obviously, when he is speaking through his character, his diction is in proper speech. Alliteration and onomatopoeia are some part of Browning diction. Now, alliteration, we know that the repetition of the same consonant in a line or alternate places, and onomatopoeia are the sound words. So this is a part, very much a part of Browning's diction. Like we have Estlin slunk in book 1. Slunk is a kind of a sound produced. So, but by reading this word, we can automatically come to know what kind of sound is produced. Now, boyhood's bugbear. It is also in book 1 where the alliteration is repeated. The use of ungrammatical words is very rare, even when characters speak. This is because characters who are inferior are usually spoken about. So, ungrammatical words means that the ideas or the views of the poet, Browning, it is being spoken by the character. And then it is obviously sometimes the grammar is not correct, and we are also not knowing to whom, what is the who is this person to whom the character is speaking. We have to only interfere or interpret from the wordings or the from the dialogues of the character. For example, is not Sordello famous just for rhyme? The crowd asks. Now, if we see, there's no such word famousest, but here Browning has deliberately used this word. So this gives an idea or a reflection of the ungrammatical words. Now the imagery. Almost all the work of Browning is full of imagery, and in Sordello we have innumerous imagery used to highlight the effect, to give a impact of the, like in book 1 it is regarding the landscape, the war, and here imagery is used in immense. Also in book 2, Sordello and Mantua, the initial lines there, it is about the wandering of Sordello in the woods. So obviously we can think of imagery that is being used there to give an idea of the woods, how because we are reading it, and by reading we can get a idea of we can feel the woods, we can feel the landscape, the river flowing, the wind flowing, the leaves rustling. So everything, this immense imagery used, but I have given here few examples of that. Constructed as a symbol for truth, the image of light describes most importantly Sordello's quest for a permanent vision for infinitely complex truth. Now, in book two, when he was a fix whether to be a poet or to be a minister on a ministerial level, there the image of light is used. So it's a ray of hope. It's a pathfinder, or we can say it's a you where the our conscious rises. So this all is reflected through the image of light, where the where Sordello's life changed. So image of light is a ray of hope, a change in life, a rise above the you can say rise above to decide what to do. A combination of red and blue. In most of the Browning's poet, he has used the combination of red and blue. For example, save one pale red striped, pale blue turban post for gondolas. So it's in the book two. I have mostly taken examples from book two because it is in our syllabus. So here also he has used the combination of red and blue. Then yellow. It is mostly used for hair color. Colored like honey, green glazed minarets. Now, these two examples, these are basically when he enters Mantua from his goito, after passing through the woods, when he enters Mantua, he sees the beauty of the that place. He had come there for the first time. Like if we go to a big city, so we are stuck or astonished to see the big huge buildings and bigger anything that we see for the first time. Same here the description is given when he first visits Montreux, and here there he saw the huge buildings, and the color that depicted is shown here. The rainbow is spoken of many times, sometimes as a symbol of hope and most times as an image of color, like laughing with lucid dewdrops, rainbow edged. Now, I have used this example because there, where the rainbow description is given, there it is shown that he was having a very playful life, very you can say he was not having any worries or any tensions, and he was just daydreaming. So there the rainbow image is used to depict his life full of colors. A needle-shaped tree against the sky is a favorite pattern. This pattern can be seen in almost all the Browning of his poems. And this needle-shaped tree description is given in the starting of book two when he is wandering through the woods. And dew outlining the black cypress pines. This black cypress pines is the needle-shaped tree. Now, theme. Basically, it is a political interpretation. You can say majority of the poem, the main focus is on the political aspects. Book one is full of wars. In book two, that Sordello is made the minister, and in book three, he is now in a fix, and he's thinking of his back this previous life. So theme is that political interpretation, that how the politics can influence a person's life and can sometimes lead him to death. Then is attack on the royal class. This we can see that when Eglamour he loses his poetry contest, he accepts death. So that means royalty cannot accept defeat. They are always in a aura of winning. And Palma also, when he was initially getting married to this Richard of this Prince of Verona, but when he comes in contact with Sordello, he quits that relation, and he wants to marry Sordello. But what happens? Sordello also dies. Now Palma is in a fix because he has initially not accepted the Prince of Verona, and now Sordello is also not there. So this type of lifestyle the royal class leads is also attacked in the Browning's Sordello. Then poet's life. Actually, the main theme you can say is the poet's life. In a poet life, he is always wants to be on the peak, that his poetry is to be acknowledged, to be read, and to be admired. But in case of Sordello, he could not do that. Neither he could be a poet nor could be a minister. So his passion and his career, they both were shattered. He could not pursue his passion and nor could be on the limelight. Now, as regarding the previous year's questions, there was no question as such, but only one RTC was there, and that too was in June 2013. Central peace, mother of strength, that's father of, nay, go yourself that length. Ask those calm hearted doers what they do when they have got their calm, and is it true? Fire rankles at the heart of every globe. So this was the paragraph that is asked in June 2013 exam, and none other question was found. Now, reference. Young Sordello, in order to fulfill his dream of becoming a poet, left for Mantua, where he encounters his lady love Palma, is what is described in Book 2 of Sordello, a narrative poem written by Robert Browning. So, this is the reference that from where these lines have been taken. Context. Sordello, published in 1840, was much convoluted and obscure work of Robert Browning. It is an imaginary biography of Mantuan bard spoken of by Dante in the Divine Comedy, set against a background of hate and conflict during Gulf and Gibelline wars. So, in what context was this poem written? Was that it was written during, inspired from Divine Comedy and written during these wars. Now, the lines that are given, it is explained. After winning the poetry competition in Mantua and after Eglamour's death, Sordello was given the rank of the bard, but due to his poetic instincts, he did not feel comfortable and went back to Goito, but returns back. After the death of Lady Adelaide, there was a huge shuffle, and Torello is forced to abandon his plan to join the Emperor on a new crusade. He travels to Mantua, where Sordello is appointed to welcome him with song, but the baffled troubadour, lacking inspiration, wanders back to Goito. Now the analysis. By near the end of Book 2, Sordello is a divided person. Man part and poet part. The man part wants to live in and be a part of society, wants to be a poet, yes, but not to the exclusion of understanding. Not to the exclusion of understanding means that he wants to be admired, he wants to be acknowledged, not that he just be a poet and nobody recognizes him. The poet part has become so wrapped up in the nature and practice of poetry that takes him far beyond what people understand, but as a consequence of not being in touch, he has become sterile and uncreative. So he was in Goito, and there his poetry was not acknowledged. Only in the poetry contest that people came to know about his talent, but that too was not appreciated as much. So with that thing, he was a little low. At the end of book 2, he is required to come up with a poem to perform before the powerful Ghibelline faction, Torello, and he can't because he was depressed and he was troubled inside mind that he could not present his artistic skill. He was a poet inside, but because of the fact that he was told about his birth and all the mishappenings that has happened before, he could not utter a word and could not even sing a song. More the poet part, it is a bit weird for Sordello, the poet. His lyrical skills require a continual putting off of irrevocable lines of character brought about by action and engagement with society. It is the maintenance of the youth of possibility so that all things are possible in his imagination, a requirement of poetry. So, what does actually poets do? They imagine and then they pen down their imagination. But he was now a shaken person, he was divided person, so he could not even think of expressing anything and giving up poetry. Now, the meter uses iambic pentameter and rhyming in couplets. Rhyme, particularly in this paragraph, it is AB, AB. I'm talking of only about the this paragraph to be considered. Here, the rhyme scheme is AB, AB. Imagery here uses fire. It depicts the aggressive nature. Here, the aggressive nature of Sordolo is depicted because he was now he thinks that he is not neither a poet nor a minister. So his life has been shattered. So he is burning inside, and this burning has been depicted by fire rankles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And